My girlfriend's male best friend, whom she grew up with, was diagnosed with a terminal illness, one that was misdiagnosed. Because of this, on the day I proposed to my girlfriend, he decided to boldly confess his feelings in front of everyone. He chases, she runs, yet she can't escape his grasp. In the end, she broke through the barriers with him, and they ended up together. As for me, betrayed by everyone, I was forced to leave for a distant place. But when I was reborn, facing the familiar accusations from friends, I simply pulled a sickly, delicate young lady into my arms and said, "Let me introduce you. This is my female best friend. We just met last night. I found an unknown female actress online offering $100,000 a month. All she had to do was play the role of a sick female best friend." She agreed readily. It's not like it's a life or death matter after all. But on the day we had agreed to meet, she said something came up and sent someone else instead. I didn't think much of it. As long as the end goal is achieved, it's fine. Just as the elevator door downstairs opened, I hurried in and noticed a delicate-looking young girl in the corner. She was quietly looking at her phone, the light shining on her hair, giving it a beautiful glow. Her features were strikingly beautiful, but her skin was a shade paler than normal, and her eyes carried an unmistakable weariness. She looked like a sickly beauty right out of a comic book. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly, but quickly averted my gaze, afraid to offend her when the person I had arranged to meet earlier told me that the replacement had already gotten on the elevator. I dialed the number she had given me. Suddenly, the phone rang behind me, startling me. I didn't think much of it and answered, only to hear a woman's soft voice and the exact same sound coming from the phone. "Hello, what a coincidence." I turned around in surprise and saw the young girl slowly raise her brows and smile at me. In an instant, the aloof and distant aura disappeared. "Mr. Wong." I froze for a moment, then nodded. I never expected the replacement would still be a beautiful woman, but thinking about the couple I was about to meet, I quickly told her what to do next. "In short, she's a pretentious coquette. The greener the better. I trust your professional instinct." The previously introduced Willow smiled, her voice gentle as she said, "I'll make sure to complete the task." Unexpectedly, just as the elevator doors opened, she stepped out and immediately twisted her ankle, falling straight into my arms. At the same time, a group of people outside the elevator watched us embrace. "George, what are you doing here? Who's this?" Sophia, looking shocked, glanced at the petite Willow and me holding her and seemed to figure something out. Her face immediately darkened, her expression turning to one of a wife catching her husband with his mistress. "George, someone beside me," she shouted angrily. He cursed. "I trusted you so much. Even tried to set you up with my sister, and now you're messing around with someone else. How could you do this to my sister?" This conversation immediately caught the attention of others, and their eyes lit up. "Oh look, a scumbag cheating scene. So dramatic." What should have been a private matter was suddenly shouted out loud by Alex. "Sis, you kept compromising for him. Even lowered the dowry by $100,000 for him. And now he's sneaking around the hospital with someone else holding her in his arms. How shameless." Others also began to accuse me, as if they had personally witnessed me being intimate with someone else. But it seemed like I just helped Willow up. How did everything suddenly become a settled matter? What a twisted mouth, I thought. I signaled for Willow to get up and glanced at Makoto, who was tightly hugging Sophia. In a calm voice, I said, "Alex, you've misunderstood. Willow and I are just friends." She was about to fall, so I helped her. Besides, Makoto is still holding Sophia. You can't possibly say that Sophia is cheating, right? As soon as my words fell, everyone finally noticed Makoto gazing at Sophia with deep affection while holding her in his arms. Without thinking, Alex retorted, "Bullshit. They're just good friends." I smiled and nodded. "Yeah, Willow and I are just good friends." After thinking it over carefully, everyone felt there was nothing wrong with it. You have your male best friend. I have my female best friend. It's just a hug, not like we kissed or anything. However, at this moment, Makoto sighed and said, "Mr. Wong, I know you're upset that I ruined your proposal ceremony and specifically came to the hospital to block us. Don't worry. I'll leave right away. I won't bother your eyes anymore." Seeing his sickly appearance, Sophia looked at him with a heartbroken expression, then impatiently glared at me and said, I've told you Makoto's health isn't good. Why do you have to be so petty? Can't you just let Makoto have a peaceful time? Her words almost made me laugh in anger. What shameless talk is this? Coming to the hospital to block us. How could you have the nerve to say that? Willow on the side quickly caught on. She coughed a few times to draw everyone's attention, then gently leaned against me. In a delicate, feeble manner, she said, I feel a little short of breath. George, please take me to see a doctor. He must have been waiting for a while. I thought to myself, out of sight, out of mind. Since I had already seen these people, a little more disgust wouldn't matter. So, I cooperatively helped her. Let's go. Sophia, who had originally been worried about Makoto, looked at me helping Willow leave with an unsatisfied expression. Alex furrowed his brows and asked, since when did George have such a close friend and so intimate? Could she really be his lover? Sophia didn't answer, but seemed a little uncomfortable. After we were out of their sight, Willow stood up on her own and smiled, proudly claiming, Mr. Wong. Their faces were all black with anger just now. I smiled, praising her. Well done, but don't call me Mr. Wong anymore. Just keep calling me George, otherwise, people will catch on to something. The smile in her eyes deepened as she replied, Okay, George. So what should we do next? Thinking about the actions of the scumbag, my lips unconsciously curled into a sneer. Of course, we should strike while the iron is hot. Remembering how Sophia had openly abandoned me during the proposal ceremony made my anger flare up again. The scene from that day replayed vividly in my mind. George, how could you, a grown man, be so petty? Makoto's about to die, and Sophia just want to take care of him. What's wrong with that exactly? They're just friends. Life and death are bigger than anything else. Can't you be a bit more of a man? There's no need to argue with someone who's about to die. My two good friends, Martin and Victor, were angrily accusing me. It was as if for them, not giving in to women meant being stripped of their male status. Someone who didn't know the truth would have thought I'd committed some unspeakable crime. But in reality, it was my beloved girlfriend who, upon hearing that her childhood sweetheart had a terminal illness, ran to him without hesitation, and I was left behind in the Grand Hotel like a complete fool. Well, not completely alone. I still had two brothers who kept telling me to be generous that day. Thinking back to the self-righteous words they said in my previous life, I reborn. Slowly, I pulled up a faint smile and said calmly, Of course I understand. They've been close since childhood. It's only natural for her to offer him comfort in his final days. What's there not to understand? Martin, who had just been ready to lecture me, froze for a second. Something didn't feel right, but he still nodded instinctively. Good, as long as you know. After all, Makoto's dying. Once he's gone, Sophia will still be yours. I smiled without saying a word. I used to believe that too. But one wrong step led to another. After I comforted my parents and the guests that day, I got a call from Sophia. George, my parents aren't mad, right? That question completely ignored whether I felt humiliated or embarrassed. I thought of her parents who had just fainted from anger after their daughter ran off at the last minute and said in a gentle tone, It's fine. Uncle and Auntie will understand. After all, Makoto's dying, and it's only human for you to spend time with him. He's loved you for so many years. After all, hearing Makoto's sorrowful confession about secretly loving her for 10 years while battling a terminal illness, Sophia's heart softened instantly. Still, she didn't forget that this had been my long-prepared proposal ceremony. In a guilty, coquettish tone, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't expect this to happen. I'll make it up to you later. Okay. I gave a cold, forced smile. Please don't. You two should stay together. Just stop dragging me into it. Sure, I could have exposed the truth that Makoto wasn't sick at all, but if I did, wouldn't she just come pestering me again? The mere thought of that scene made me feel like I'd stepped in dog, __, while walking on a clean road, disgusting and irritating. So, yes, they had to stay together. Before long, I heard they'd moved into a villa. Coincidentally, it was the house meant to be our future marital home. Apparently, Makoto didn't want to stay in the hospital because he wanted to leave this world with dignity. And so, naturally, they moved in. All those carefully chosen decorations of mine became their little props for deepening their emotional bond. Thinking about the plan I was about to set in motion, I moved in that very night and even invited my two brothers. Otherwise, people would gossip. A single man and woman living together. How improper. With more people around, things wouldn't look so awkward, right? Funny enough, that was the same excuse they used last year. It was as if they'd forgotten Sophia and I were the real couple. They just kept pushing her toward Makoto, constantly making excuses for them. Even when they kissed, they called it an accident. And the moment I got angry, they'd start guilt-tripping me, saying I had no empathy, that Makoto was dying and I was still being petty. They would say things like, "You're a man. Why are you acting so controlling?" Or, "The moment you try to reason with your girlfriend, you've already lost." Once logic wins, love fades. A man should comfort her emotions, not preach to her. And just like that, what should have been my relationship turned into a chaotic battlefield of moral manipulation and emotional tug-of-war. Makoto even wore a look of guilt, pretending to apologize to me. But while saying he was leaving, he clung to Sophia, putting on a dramatic performance of life and death partying. And so, Sophia became even more tied to him. I got drunk at a business dinner, and when my coworkers called her, she told me to call a driver because she was at the movies with Makoto. When I had a 39 degrees fever and lay on the bed half unconscious, she was having a candlelight dinner with Makoto. Back then, no matter how I tried, I couldn't understand how someone could be so shameless. Logically speaking, an ex should be like someone who's dead, non-existent. But here he was, supposedly dying, making himself more present than ever. So unwilling to swallow my pride, I tried everything to break them up. But in this life, I'm going to lock them together myself. When my parents heard I had moved over there, they immediately called me home for dinner. Their words were full of tests, probing my attitude towards Sophia. They used to think Sophia was perfect, but after all this, they felt she was fickle, not from a proper family at all. It was all very vexing. My mom said, "George, after everything that's happened, you're still living together. Do you really still plan to marry her?" Seeing their frustration, I rubbed my nose. I couldn't tell them I'd already let go. Not yet, because I still had plans to discuss her back. So, I could only answer vaguely. We'll try to work things out for now." My parents exchanged a look, and both sighed inwardly. My dad said, "If it's not right, cut your losses. There are plenty of women out there. She's not the only one. Worst case, sell the house and break off the engagement. I'll find the best lawyer for you. She won't get a single penny." Finally, my dad said something heavy. Hearing it, my nose stung. In my last life, for the sake of pride, I went abroad to build a career alone. By the time I'd figured things out, I got the news of their car accident. I had truly become alone. Thank heaven. Now I have another chance. I've realized the best way to beat moral manipulation is to return it exactly as it's given. Hilarious. She has a male best friend. Why can't I have a female best friend who can't find an opposite-sex friend with a terminal illness, after all? And so, just as Sophia and her group came home, they saw me getting out a taxi with Willow. She looked pale and fragile, leaning against me like a delicate bird seeking shelter, the very picture of pitiable grace. In short, she looked even more like a pretentious coquette mistress, and one about to officially enter the household at that. Aside from Sophia's darkening face, everyone else was exchanging confused glances, not understanding why I brought her home. Suddenly, Willow coughed a few times. I patted her back in a show of concern and asked, "Are you all right?" She shook her head and in a soft, hoarse voice said, "George, I'm fine. Thanks to you coming with me to the hospital. I really hate that place. I'll have to trouble you for a while longer." I smiled cooperatively and said, "No problem. We're best friends after all." The stunned onlookers. This looked familiar. Once inside, I smoothly introduced her. "This is my female best friend, Willow. You met her this afternoon at the hospital. She'll be staying with us for a while, so please take care of her." "Hello," Willow said softly, coughing again to emphasize her sickly state. Sophia glared at me with clear discontent. "How can you possibly have a female best friend?" I replied calmly. "You have a male best friend? Why can't I have a female best friend?" She snapped back. How can male best friends and female best friends be the same? It's perfectly normal for a girl to have a male best friend, but when a guy has a female best friend, it's weird. Everyone knows what you men are always thinking about. I countered. If men aren't allowed to have female best friends, then where do women get their male best friends from? Sophia was momentarily speechless. Then she frowned and asked sharply, "We've been together for so long. How come I never knew you had a female friend?" Just as I was about to answer, Willow cut in first, smiling faintly. "It hasn't been long. Just met a few days ago." Then she lowered her eyes and let out a soft, fragile laugh before dropping a bombshell. "But I fell in love with George at first sight. He knew I don't have much time left, and out of pity, he couldn't bring himself to reject me. If he must blame someone, blame me. I'm dying anyway." After speaking, she coughed a few times, her eyes filled with pitiful sorrow. Sophia had never seen such a pretentious coquette before. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Makoto, however, frowned and said coldly, "You've only known each other for 2 days, and you're already staying at his house. That's inappropriate. Besides, George is Willow's fiancé." Willow shot him a cool glance, then lowered her head as if deeply hurt. Her voice trembled, full of grievance. "I'm sorry for disturbing you. I heard you were living in their wedding house, so I thought it was fine. I didn't know it wasn't allowed." "Damn, that's one hell of a comeback. I thought she deserves a raise for that line." Sophia's expression changed instantly. Flustered, she turned to me and said, "George, I didn't mean to let her move in. It's just that the hospital felt too hopeless, and the environment here is better." I nodded understandingly, cutting her off just in time. "Yeah, I get it. You two kissing on the balcony was also mouth-to-mouth resuscitation." "Right, totally understandable. In my previous life, I'd only found out about that much later. Back then, I was about to go abroad. Makoto came by to kick me while I was down, bragging proudly about how Sophia had fallen for him. And Sophia, the most I'd ever done was hold her hand. She used to say she wanted to save the best part for our wedding night. Damn it, thinking about it now still feels like a cruel joke." For a moment, the whole living room went silent, especially Sophia and Makoto. They were probably wondering when exactly I'd seen them. I looked at them both and thought, back in that previous life when I saw that scene, I really shouldn't have just slapped them. A dog can't stop eating. How could I ever expect her to come back to me? She deserves to eat forever because I was acting so forgiving. Even Martin and Victor couldn't find fault with me. What could they say that I didn't sound happy enough? When the tension thickened again, Willow decided to pour gasoline on the fire. She said innocently, "That's odd. The balcony is so small. How did you two do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, standing up? Does that mean you could do it for me, too?" I answered with perfect seriousness. "Of course, we're best friends." "After all," Sophia shouted, disgusting. "Stop pretending already." Sophia Kim finally lost her temper completely and yelled, "George, you think I embarrassed you that day? So now you're doing this on purpose to get back at me, aren't you?" I laughed. So she did know after all? But I just went on lying with a straight face. "No, I'm not. I didn't." Willow nodded meekly. "Miss Kim, please don't be mad. It's all my fault. I shamelessly pestered George. If you want to blame someone, blame me." Makoto's face turned red-hot. If she was shameless, then what did that make him? Even more disgusting, wasn't it? Suddenly, Makoto felt a tightness in his chest and shortness of breath and collapsed instantly. "Makoto!" Sophia hurriedly supported him and helped him upstairs. Martin and Victor looked worried, too. They turned toward me, instinctively ready to blame me again. But then, Willow suddenly coughed hard several times. Her face turned pale, and the next second, she spat out a mouthful of blood. She gasped weakly, "George." I hadn't expected her to pull that move at all. I quickly scooped her up and rushed upstairs. Martin and Victor immediately shut their mouths, muttering in confusion. "Oh wow, that looks serious. Wait, don't tell me she's terminally ill, too." The moment I closed the door, Willow instantly came back to life, full of energy again. Seeing my frown of concern, she laughed lightly. "It's fine, really. I just, sometimes spit blood for no reason." I was speechless. I half doubted her story, but when I saw the sparkle in her eyes, I couldn't help but relax a little. I sighed. You scared me. I thought you coughed up blood because they pissed you off. Then I'd really feel guilty. Willow rubbed her nose. So, I could stay here then? I replied, of course. I bought this house. What right does she have to object? In my previous life, I've been stupid enough to let those two trick me into putting Sophia's name on the deed, and they even swindled me out of the money. That debt had to be paid one way or another. A few minutes later, Sophia came knocking anxiously. She hesitated at the sight of Willow lying weakly on the bed. I heard she coughed up blood. They just returned from checking with the hospital. The doctors had said her condition was severe. She could cough up blood and die any time. Her emotions had to be kept stable. Creepy as hell, honestly. I glanced at Sophia. She's asleep now. So, was there something you needed? Sophia blinked, remembering her reason for coming. You should move to another room, she said quickly. It's inappropriate for a man and woman to live in the same room together. Martin immediately nodded. Yeah, that's really not proper. I gave a faint smile, tinged with irony. A few days ago, when Makoto fainted, Sophia puffed up angrily and said, Didn't you stay up all night by his side without even changing clothes? That's not the same. He was a patient. What could he possibly do to me? I grinned. Exactly. Willow's also a patient. What could I possibly do to her? Sophia froze, completely speechless. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly, almost wanting to kick the cheating woman straight out. In my past life, every time Makoto fainted, Sophia would take care of him so tenderly. Eventually, her care landed them both in the same bed. She even had the nerve to call an accident. An accident? Then how did all your clothes accidentally come off too? Absolutely disgusting. Martin and Victor had even tried to defend them, saying they'd merely slept together innocently, that nothing happened, and that I shouldn't take it to heart because, after all, Makoto was dying, so I should let him have it. Utter nonsense. Sophia still didn't give up. Then I'll take care of her instead, she said. I looked at her with mock surprise. Oh no, that won't do. Makoto still needs your care, doesn't he? I'd feel bad making you look after two people. Besides, you and Willow don't even know each other. It would be awkward. And this bed's only big enough for two. You're not planning to squeeze in together, are you? My words left her completely cornered. Her face turned red. Fine, do whatever you want, she snapped, turning to leave. Martin and Victor exchanged a glance, muttered an excuse, and left too. Then Willow opened her eyes and said softly, Those people really do hide filth behind their righteous masks. I shrugged. Ain't that the truth? Ignoring Sophia's disapproval, Willow stayed conveniently. Her room was separated from mine by only a single wall. Later, she offered to cook something for me to taste. Not wanting to face the others, I agreed to help her in the kitchen. While I was chopping scallions, Willow leaned close to grab the seasoning from the shelf, standing just in front of me. The way we were standing, she was practically encircled by my arms. I froze instinctively, my heart suddenly racing. Even when I'd been with Sophia, the most we'd ever done was hold hands. No one had ever stood this close to me before, especially not like this. Just as I was about to step back, a sharp voice cut through the air. What are you two doing? Sophia stormed in, shoving Willow aside. Willow's waist hit the edge of the table with a dull thud. She winced, letting out a soft gasp of pain. What the hell is wrong with you? I snapped at Sophia immediately, checking if Willow was hurt. To me, Sophia had just gone completely insane again. Sophia's eyes were red, her voice trembling. What were you two doing standing that close early in the morning and already grabbing at each other? Do you think I'm invisible? I frowned, my tone cold and impatient. Making breakfast counts as grabbing at each other now? Then what about you and Makoto before? Were you cheating every morning too? At that, Sophia fell silent, remembering that she and Makoto had been the ones cooking breakfast together the past few days. Her face stayed dark the entire meal. She even forgot to take food upstairs to Makoto, but I wasn't about to remind her. I wasn't that much of a saint, I had to admit. Gossip spreads fast. The humiliating scene from our engagement party had already made its rounds through our social circle. Even people who had always hated me were now pretending to care just so they could pry for details under the guise of concern. After dealing with a few rounds of that nonsense, I finally understood what it meant when people said 3 women can turn a street into a stage. Give them a bit of space, and they'd probably start a full-on drama right there. I'd originally planned to find another opportunity to break up with Sophia, but when I finally got home for work one night, the whole house reeked of alcohol. I was just about to turn on the light when someone suddenly grabbed my arm. Startled, I turned and saw Willow beside me. Her soft voice brushed against my ear. "Don't turn on the light." Confused, I lowered my voice too. "Why not?" She wrapped her arms around mine, tiptoeing slightly to get closer. My whole body tensed. Despite her usual frail appearance, she had an undeniably curvy, toned figure. Her faint perfume drifted through the air, heating my blood and sending a wave of restless heat coursing through me. She didn't seem to notice my reaction and whispered, her tone laced with mischief. "Look, your ready-made evidence just walked right in." I frowned, not yet understanding. But as my eyes adjusted to the dark, I saw Sophia and Makoto tangled together on the sofa, faces flushed, clearly drunk. For a moment, I was stunned. They are both drunk. Willow's voice carried a sly smile. "Didn't you want to break up with that cheating woman? Well, looks like they've already handed you the perfect reason." I was silent. Deep down, I knew maybe in my past life, they'd already been doing exactly this long before I ever found out. How could Sophia sleep with another man and still say she wanted to marry me? I asked quietly, "So, what do you plan to do?" Willow chuckled softly. "Simple, an eye for an eye." After recording their filthy little scene, I took a deep breath. Then I flicked on the lights, forcing my face into a mask of rage and shouted, "What the hell are you doing?" My voice was so loud that Martin and Victor came stumbling out of their rooms almost instantly. "George, what's with the yelling?" Martin grumbled irritably. Sophia, startled by the light and my outburst, woke up instantly. Seeing herself exposed and disheveled under everyone's gaze, she yanked the blanket up to cover herself, which unfortunately left Makoto completely uncovered, lying there like an idiot for everyone to see. Martin and Victor immediately realized what had happened, their eyes going wide in shock. I quickly pulled Willow close and covered her eyes. The motion was so sudden it looked like I was holding her in my arms. Willow leaned lightly against me, her lips curving into a soft smile. "It's okay," she whispered. "I've already closed my eyes." At her words, I awkwardly pulled my hand back. Sophia's face flushed. She tightened her bra strap and bit her lip. "George, let me explain." I rolled my eyes inside, then calmly dropped a thunderbolt. "Forget it. We're over." "What?" Sophia cried in disbelief. Just then, Makoto groggily woke up, saw the scene, and went white, scrambling to pull his pants up. Sophia tried to salvage the situation, protesting, "We only had some drinks. We didn't do anything," when she started spewing that ridiculous line again. I laughed in contempt and was about to slap her until Willow pinched my arm to make me hold back. Sophia noticed the gesture in an instant and turned her accusations on Willow. "Is it her? Did she say something?" she demanded, realizing I wasn't alone anymore. I nodded calmly, deciding to drive her crazy. "You always say I'm not generous enough, that I control you too tightly and won't let you have opposite-sex friends. You accused me of nitpicking a dying person. After meeting Willow, I realized you were right, so I want to be by her side during her remaining time to avoid giving anyone an excuse." I said, "It's best we break up." Sophia's face twisted for a moment. After all, when she was with Makoto, she never expected people to talk, but she quickly changed tack and spoke each word like an accusation. "But Makoto is my childhood friend. We know each other inside out. And you? You just met her a few days ago. Maybe she's a liar." She wasn't entirely wrong. We hadn't known each other long. But so what? I said, "We're friends? What difference does it make? Willow and I hit it off the moment we met. We're just friends. Weren't you and Makoto just pure friendship, too?" Seeing her completely stumped again, I sneered inwardly. "No wonder it's a kiss-and-tell friendship." Makoto stammered. "This must be a misunderstanding." I had zero patience left for that guy. I grabbed Willow, who'd been enjoying the show, and took her upstairs. Right? Yes. Yes. Let's all pretend we're blind. I couldn't stand them for a day longer. I sent the proof of Makoto and Sophia's betrayal to Sophia Kim's parents, telling them their daughter had found a better match and that it was over between them for good. The Kim parents erupted. Makoto, who is he? A dying man. Helping the dying is one thing. But how could we let our daughter marry him and live as his widow? Never mind what they might think. With Willow's help, the whole circle found out quickly and happily gorged on the gossip. After all, other people's scandals are tastier. A few people who didn't like me sent hypocritical messages, part consolation, part snide jibe. In their eyes, I was about to marry Sophia. Then some dying blondes stole my men. Obviously, I'd be furious. Some even assumed I cheated, and that was why we broke up. But when they dug a bit deeper, everything became clear. A terminally ill friend for you, a terminally ill friend for me. Fair's fair, right? Besides, my original explanation had already been spread by Martin and Victor. On one side was a childhood friend clinging to her fiancé while rumors flew. On the other was a man who decided to break it off to avoid scandal. The contrast was obvious. Even Martin and Victor couldn't stand it any longer. For them, a little fling might be forgivable, but putting up with being cuckolded would make them spineless cowards. I never would have thought it. Makoto called me. From the sound of it, he was by the river, wind howling through the receiver. George, please don't break up with Sophia. His tone was choked, like he was tearing his own guts apart, but still forcing the words out. I stayed silent, wanting to see what kind of pathetic act he'd pull this time. Beside me, Willow raised her brows in mild surprise, leaning closer, as if to hear better. By some odd impulse, I didn't hit speakerphone. Then his miserable voice poured through. George, I'm going to die soon after I'm gone. Please take care of Sophia for me. At that, my face went cold. The way you're entrusting her to me. Do you even hear yourself? I said softly. Are you sure you don't need to go back to the hospital? But he was too busy stringing together his sob story, not even forming full sentences to hear a word I said, seeing my growing impatience. Willow smiled faintly and plucked a grape. What are you doing? I asked softly. I washed it for you, she said, tilting her head. The next second, she popped it into my mouth. I had to admit it tasted good. So, while he rambled on from the other end of the line, on our end, it was one grape for me, one grape for her. The two of us eating with quiet contentment. He went on, I know you dislike me, George. I know you're angry Sophia left you at the engagement party, because of me. But that Willow girl, she's obviously bad news. I advise you to leave her early, or Sophia will be angry with you. I thought, who the hell does he think he is? Irritation bubbling up. I cut him off and hung up without another word. Willow saw me grinding my teeth and poked my forehead, her gesture completely natural. Is it really worth getting upset? You already knew what kind of people they were. I opened my mouth to retort, then realized, what exactly was I angry about? Was it because he brought up Willow? I found myself glancing at her, her long black hair draped over her shoulders, the corners of her eyes tilting slightly as she noticed my gaze and looked back. A glance so sultry it made my chest tighten. Even her pale skin couldn't hide her beauty. Uneasy for reasons I couldn't name, I asked, your illness? It's not real, is it? Normal people can't just cough up blood on command, though it had only happened once. Thinking about it still left a pit in my stomach. Willow seemed surprised at my sudden question, but only brushed it off vaguely. Seeing her dodge the topic, I realized I knew almost nothing about her besides her name, that she was someone I'd hired. How had I started to care so much about someone like that? Clearly, it was time to end this. I didn't expect Sophia to show up at my door the very next day. She'd been called home by her parents before, but now she stormed in, voice full of fury. George, you're so heartless. Why did you drive Makoto out? If Martin hadn't noticed he was missing, he might have ended up wandering the streets alone. Willow slipped her hand into my clenched fist, her tone dripping with sarcasm. What now? Is he some kind of baby who can't live without his mommy? Sophia shot her a glare, then turned back to me with hatred in her eyes. But he's a patient. George, if something happens to him out there, can your conscience really handle that? Willow's expression instantly cooled, clearly disgusted by the moral blackmail. Her voice sharpened, carrying rare aggression. Oh, what now? Is George his dad? Should he feed him, clothe him, and tuck him in at night, too? You go to say he needs George's permission just to step outside. Thinking back to Makoto's pathetic act on the phone last night, I feigned grief and said solemnly, "This is all your fault." He left because he'd finally lost hope in you. He loved you deeply, yet you kept stringing him along. He doesn't have much time left. If you really cared about him, you'd marry him and fulfill his last wish. Sophia froze, completely blindsided. Then, with a pout of false innocence, she said, "You should have told me sooner. I was only worried you'd object. I know you love me, George, but Makoto has loved me for so many years. He doesn't have much time left. Can't you be a little generous?" As a man, that was revolting. So much so, I couldn't even reply at first. Willow let out a quiet, mocking laugh. Her beautiful almond eyes glinted with subtle malice and jealousy as she said, "Some cheap women really think they're irresistible just because a few men once liked them. They're tossed aside and still think every man wants them, but in reality, they're nothing but shiny trash. Pretty on the outside, rotten inside." Her words hit like a slap. I felt instantly refreshed. Apparently still unsatisfied, Willow leaned into my arms and put on a fragile act. She said softly, "After all, George has been spending his time taking care of me. How would he have the time to bother her? And I really like George since I won't live much longer. Please don't be mad at me. You're such a grown woman. Can't you be a little more generous?" Sophia's face turned scarlet with fury. This must have felt like the other woman standing right in front of her and slapping her with a smile. Seeing her angry only made me happier. I said, "Willow's right. She's not well. You shouldn't take her words to heart." That was actually a line I'd learned from Sophia herself in my last life. Sophia stared at us, completely stunned, like she was watching a pair of shameless adulterers flaunt their affair. She shouted, "What did you just say?" I turned toward Martin and Victor. "Don't you agree?" They nodded rapidly. "Yeah, you're absolutely right." Sophia nearly exploded. "How can you two take a side?" Martin and Victor exchanged a look, then said solemnly, "We've always been on his side." When I finally got back to my room, I couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. "Willow, you really know how to kill without lifting a finger," I said between laughs. "That was brutal." Willow arched a brow, her eyes fixed on me without replying. Inside, though, she thought to herself, "George is great. It's just a pity. He'll be my husband soon enough." Feeling that I'd finally gotten my revenge and clear my head, I decided it was time to move out. Later, I'd sell the house, too. Just looking at it left a bad taste in my mouth. When Willow heard the news, she fell silent for a moment. Then she smiled like she had when we first met, dispelling all her usual cool distance in an instant. "That's wonderful," she said softly, her words lodged like a stone in my chest. I opened my mouth but couldn't find anything to say. Right, almost forgot. She was just an actress I'd hired. And yet, she was so beautiful. Why hadn't her acting career taken off? Surely she must have fans. Surely many people must like her. But the truth was simple. She was hired, and I was the one who hired her. Nothing more. Still, for reasons I couldn't name, I reached for her hand, lacing my fingers with hers. Maybe because at the edge of another humiliating, lonely chapter, like in my previous life, there was finally someone standing next to me. Just for a moment, just a small moment, Sophia saw us and quickly stepped in front, blocking our way. "George, you're moving out." "Why?" she demanded. I gave her a strange look. "Have you forgotten? This was our wedding house, but we're broken up now. No wedding, no reason to stay since my purpose for living there had been achieved. Why keep torturing myself in that place?" Sophia's gaze fell on our joined hands. Her face flushed. "You're taking her with you." I grinned and nodded. Willow leaned in, her smile smug and faintly mocking, like a concubine who'd just successfully risen in rank. "George is so wonderful," she said sweetly. "He broke up with you for me and is even taking me home. Not like someone else who's still just a friend." I almost burst out laughing, afraid Sophia would explode on the spot, pulling Willow with me. We slipped out before she could block us. Upstairs, Makoto heard everything. His face went pale as he thought bitterly, just a friend. Back at home, the excitement drained out of me. She asked softly, "You said you're going out for drinks with your friends later, right?" The air was still. Willow turned toward me, her smile tinged with loneliness. A bittersweet current flowed. I nodded. "Yeah, you should head back." I opened my mouth, searching for a reason to make her stay, but found none. With my life in such a mess, what right did I have to drag her into it? In other people's eyes, who knew what I'd already looked like, she simply said, "Okay, I had finally cut ties with those two, sold the house, reclaimed the wedding money." I should have felt relieved, but everything I did felt distracted, half-hearted. My parents thought I was still depressed because of Sophia. They whispered their curses at her behind closed doors, furious at her shamelessness. I believed that once I got used to being alone again, everything would be fine. But when Sophia texted me, asking to meet up, something in me sprang back to life. I even dialed the old number in excitement, only to hear another voice answer, "Oh, you mean Willow? She's been busy lately. I haven't been able to reach her either." Disappointment washed over me like cold water, but I could only pretend nothing had happened and hang up. If at this point I still didn't understand my feelings for Willow, I really would be a fool. For a moment, I didn't know whether to feel relieved for finally seeing my feelings for Willow clearly or to feel lost because she had already left. Forget it. Maybe it's just one of those meant to meet but not meant to be together kind of fates. I sighed. After thinking for a bit, I decided to meet Sophia first. At least it could distract me for a while. Perhaps heaven still favored me. When I arrived at the restaurant entrance, I saw someone I never expected. She was still looking at her phone, her stunningly beautiful face calm and expressionless. Her features were sharp and refined, yet carried a distant chill. She didn't look like a fragile beauty, but rather like a cold, elegant heiress from a wealthy family. To hide my excitement, I pressed down the corners of my mouth. But the spark in my eyes was impossible to conceal. "Willow, why is it you?" But then a thought hit me. What if she was here to meet someone else? A guy even? My mood sank instantly. I forced a stiff smile and said, "Or are you here for a date with someone?" Willow was momentarily taken aback. After seeing me, she raised her brows slightly, a teasing smile playing on her lips. Of course, I was speechless. But the next second, she added nonchalantly, "Isn't that someone you?" I thought she must have heard about this from someone else, so I relaxed, habitually slinging an arm around her shoulder. Knew it. Sophia asking me out of nowhere. I had no idea what kind of nonsense she was planning. "It's great that you came." Not long after we sat down, Sophia and Makoto arrived, but something was off. Sophia had changed out of her fitted mini dress into loose, comfortable clothes, and even swapped her heels for dull-colored flats. Willow and I exchanged a glance, both guessing the same possibility. Willow asked, "Is she pregnant?" I shrugged. Probably got carried away, now that they've thrown morality out the window. I was speechless. The Kim parents haven't even agreed to let Makoto marry Sophia yet. Forget moving fast. They aren't even officially together, and she's already pregnant. What the hell? Then confusion set in. What did this have to do with me? Why did she call me here? Until Sophia, looking ashamed, asked me to pretend the baby was mine so everyone else would believe it. That's when I finally snapped. "Are you out of your damn mind? You're pregnant and wanting to take the blame. That's not a favor. That's suicide. Even a starving man wouldn't eat that kind of meal." It was the first time Willow had ever met someone so shameless. She was furious, but also amused by the absurdity. With a cold tone, she said, "A woman who flirts with other men when she's about to get engaged. And a man who gets someone pregnant and won't take responsibility. You really are a perfect match, a moral disaster, the both of you." Sophia, already feeling guilty, turned livid with shame and snapped, "What's it to you?" Willow's eyes flickered, an idea clearly forming. She said softly, "Well, to tell you the truth, because of my illness, I can't give Jord a child. That's always been my greatest regret. Miss Kim, after you give birth, could you perhaps help us out by—" "Sophia?" Kim froze, her face twisted in disbelief, as if Willow's meaning was too shocking to even process. Biting her lip, she hissed, "What do you mean? You want me to be your surrogate?" I immediately understood what Willow meant. And inside, I was on the verge of bursting out laughing. On the surface, though, I put on an anxious face and said, "Exactly. My parents are so traditional. They've always wanted me to carry on the family line. How about this? I can acknowledge the baby is mine. And if you could help Willow and me have a son afterward, if once isn't enough, we'll try twice." Sophia was shaking with fury. She yelled, "What do you take me for?" I gave her a sidelong glance and said calmly, "You might want to think this through. Opportunities like this don't come twice. If Makoto leaves you, your child won't even have a father. How will you explain that to your parents? Do you really think they'll accept a child born out of nowhere? Having a baby out of wedlock, it's not exactly a good look, you know." Sophia's face turned red with rage. She jabbed a finger at Willow and snapped, "She's dying anyway, isn't she?" I narrowed my eyes. That was a particularly cruel thing to say. Willow chuckled softly and replied, "That's not the same. Even if I die, my child would still be here. It would give my parents something to remember me by. They'd be overjoyed." Sophia looked like she was about to explode. Seeing her face go pale, Makoto quickly rubbed her back to calm her down. "Don't get angry," he said gently. "You're pregnant." Then he turned toward us, furious. "How could you even think of using the child like that? You're disgusting." I wrapped an arm around Willow's shoulder with a cheerful smile and said, "Yeah, how could anyone dump their child on someone else? That's absolutely insane. Utterly heartless." Willow let out a mocking laugh and asked, "So, what did you two come here for exactly?" Sophia froze, speechless. For what they just said, wasn't she basically asking me to take responsibility for their baby? The air suddenly turned awkward and heavy. Even the people secretly eavesdropping started realizing what was happening. Their worldview shattered, and they laughed in disdain. Unbelievable. Wasn't this the very definition of double standards? When Willow noticed they were still unwilling to back down, she delivered the finishing blow. "If you bring this up again, I'll send those photos of you two fooling around on the couch straight to your parents. And then let's see who gets blamed for the mess." I was amazed. Huh. Willow's foresight was brilliant. After we left, I was afraid I might lose contact with Willow for good, so I quickly asked for her contact info. She looked genuinely pleased. For the sake of the future, I glanced at her slightly pale face and asked carefully, "How about this? No better day than today. Let's go to the hospital again. Maybe the diagnosis was wrong." Willow blinked in surprise, then said, "I thought you." But she didn't finish the sentence. Realizing that I was still worried about her coughing up blood before, she didn't refuse. After all, being cared for, it's a pleasant feeling. When we visited the hospital, the doctor said everything was fine. The occasional blood was normal, just a result of her unique constitution. I was speechless. After a brief moment of confusion, I just accepted it. It was probably Willow misleading them on purpose before. Rare diseases do exist in this world. Maybe hers was just one of those strange ones. Soon, I heard Sophia Kim's name again. Apparently, after Makoto's affair was exposed, Sophia tearfully claimed he didn't have much time left and insisted on keeping the baby. But when the Kim parents demanded proof and forced Makoto to get checked, the doctor announced he was perfectly fine. The damage was done. The Kims, already swamped with business troubles, had no energy left to deal with their messy love lives. But Sophia felt utterly betrayed. She had sacrificed so much for him, even carried a child, and yet he turned out to be completely fine. Behind her back, people mocked her, saying she was blind, tricked in a bed, and was still so love-brained that she wanted to have his baby. What a joke. Others whispered that maybe the two had been together long before, and that they'd staged this whole drama just to legitimize their relationship. After all, they had once justified so many shameless acts under the banner of love. Now that the truth was out, nothing they did could withstand scrutiny anymore. I thought that since they were having a baby, they'd finally stopped stirring up trouble. But no, Sophia actually showed up at the entrance of my company to confront me in front of everyone. Tears welled up in her eyes as she suddenly dropped to her knees. Her voice trembled. "George, please please tell your family to stop for the sake of our past engagement. Even now, she was playing the innocent damsel in distress, pretending to be pitiful and pure, but what she said gave away a lot. My father had started targeting the Kim Corporation. Typical of my father. I cleared my throat, feigning a more aggrieved look than hers, and said, Sophia, it's not that I don't want to help you. Business is like this. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's not called suppression, you know. Besides, you're pregnant with Makoto's baby. How can you be running around looking for your ex-fiancé? What if you fall? What if you lose the baby? How will you two get married then? Didn't you call off our engagement just to be with him? Because I raised my voice, everyone nearby heard every word loud and clear. Their once sympathetic gazes immediately shifted. Good grief. So she cheated and got pregnant before marriage. That's impressive. Sophia covered her face and broke down crying. She never imagined I could be so cold-hearted. But maybe my words struck a nerve because she suddenly clutched her stomach in pain. Then someone screamed, "Oh my God, she's bleeding. She's bleeding down there. Is she having a miscarriage?" Sophia's face turned ghostly white as she gasped. My stomach. It hurts. I frowned. It didn't seem like she was faking it this time. Just as I was about to call an ambulance, Makoto stormed in, his face twisted in fury. "George, what did you do to Sophia?" he roared. "Unbelievable. Standing here doing nothing, and I still got blamed for it." A man nearby scoffed and retorted, "It's your shameless girlfriend who came here to cause trouble. Don't go blaming others. Birds of feather, huh? Trash finds its own kind." I smiled faintly at Makoto, then met his bloodshot eyes with a calm expression and said coldly, "Instead of throwing accusations around without knowing what happened, maybe call an ambulance first." Just then, Willow came rushing over. She was panting, her face full of visible worry. "What happened, George? Are you okay?" she asked. Even though she knew Makoto wouldn't dare lay a finger on me, she still came running. And the first thing out of her mouth was concern. My heart softened a little. I didn't want to keep entangling myself in this farce any longer. So I took her hand and said, "It's fine. Let's go home. My parents said they want to meet you." Her eyes suddenly lit up, shimmering bright, and she answered almost instantly, "Okay." We didn't spare another glance for the others. Later, I heard from someone that their baby didn't make it. Apparently, Sophia had eaten something she shouldn't have. She was devastated, convinced that everything she'd suffered was Makoto's fault. Then, she started regretting it all, saying she should never have abandoned me for him. Not long after, word spread that Makoto had his leg broken by Mr. Kim in a fit of rage. After that, he completely disappeared, like he'd fallen off the face of the earth. I sneered and stopped thinking about them altogether. A pretentious coquette will always be a pretentious coquette to someone like her. Everything is always someone else's fault. Changing partners doesn't change her nature. From that day on, Willow and I grew even closer. Our words carried a subtle, unmistakable tension of flirtation. And yet, despite the lingering sweetness, I still hadn't broken that final barrier between us. Maybe it was my past life's experience that made me hesitate. Too cautious, too afraid to step forward. Willow seemed to understand. She stayed by my side, quietly, never pushing, never asking for more. Even my parents couldn't stand watching anymore. They thought I was stringing her along. My mother said, "Son, you can't stop eating just because you once choked. What happened with Sophia was awful, but life has to move forward. Willow's a wonderful girl. If you really don't want to keep her waiting, then be honest and let her go." Several of my friends would love to have her as a daughter-in-law, you know. Without even thinking, I blurted out, "No way." My mother smiled knowingly. She said, "Oh, come on. We know you too well. The way you guard her whenever someone else so much as looks at her, you two should just make it official already. Your father and I will be so much more at ease." I knew they were worried I'd stay stuck in the past, unable to move on. And once that had been true, but now there was someone who made me happy just by thinking of her name. Everything else simply faded away. I said, "I know I'll talk to her properly, but there had to be a right time. I couldn't just walk up and say, 'Will you marry me?' That would feel so abrupt, so awkward. So, I waited and waited until Willow's birthday arrived. During those days, Willow began opening up completely. She confessed that the actress I'd seen before was just her best friend. She wasn't an actress at all. She was simply a rich girl from a publicly listed company. When I first heard this, I went silent for a moment, then joked, "So, you liked me all along? Is that why you deliberately approached me?" She didn't answer. She only hooked her arms around my neck and said with total confidence, "Of course, you're such a good man. If someone gave you up, it's only because she was blind." I felt a deep rush of emotion. Meeting her was truly the best thing that had ever happened to me. But I also wondered why this person hadn't appeared at all in my previous life. It was as if she'd materialized out of thin air. Later, when I carried a drunk Willow back to her room, I asked again when she'd fallen for me. She wrapped her arms around my neck, stood on tiptoe, and kissed me. Her eyes were filled with tender longing. "Of course," she said, "a very, very long time ago." Looking into her eyes, I suddenly remembered all the disgusting scenes from my previous life and muttered to myself, when I was abandoned by everyone, cornered with nowhere to go. "If only you'd been there." She looked aggrieved and whispered, "I'm sorry. If I hadn't gone abroad back then, you wouldn't have had to face all that alone. I should have come back earlier before you went abroad yourself." My heart jolted. Wasn't that something from my previous life? Could it be? The thought left me stunned, half in disbelief, half grateful. So I wasn't as worthless as they'd said. Someone had always been thinking of me. I took a deep breath and held Willow tightly in my arms. I said softly, "It's okay. It's okay. You came back." "Yes," she murmured. "I came back, and soon we got married back when I'd been with Sophia." She'd set down an endless list of conditions before agreeing to my proposal. Now, after just 3 months with Willow, we were already making plans for the future. Maybe that's what happens when you finally meet the one you truly love. After learning I'd been reborn, Willow was always afraid I might get upset again because of Sophia and the others. But with someone so much better waiting for me, why would I ever let irrelevant people distract me? The past is gone. The days ahead are still.